G'day guys, welcome back. This is the video you've all been waiting for. I have been getting so many questions like over the last 2 years. Why do you weigh your resin, Julie? Why do I have so much of one part of my resin left and not the other, Julie? And I'm saying, but in my experience, and this is my experience, I weigh my resin and part A is always heavier than part B in my experience. Okay, so this is what I'm going to show you today. This is what I do. You can take a little snapshot of my chart here. Now the main two resins that we use as resin artists is a 2-to-1, so 2 part of A to 1 part of B, or a 1-to-1, 1 part A to 1 part B, equal amounts. If you're doing in volume like milliliters or cc's, it's 1-to-1. But as I said, when I weigh mine, I find that A is always heavier than B. So this is why I come up with this chart. So feel free to take a little snapshot of it and keep it somewhere safe. So I'm going to have to do this video over a few days, because once I've mixed up my resin, I then need to go and make another video and use my resin. And then another day I'll do the 1-to-1. So today I'm doing the 2-to-1. And I am going to use my river table resin. Just went and got some resin. So let's just test my theory, okay? Turn that on. So I've got platinum ultra clear. It's a 2-to-1. That's A. That's B. These are a bit old now. They're discoloring a bit. Haven't been opened yet. They've still got the seal on them. 1231 grams. Okay, 1231. This is B. 1123. So this weighs almost like 100 grams more, which is like 3.5 ounces more. Okay, so this is why I do this, because if you do equal parts, you're going to end up with more of one than the other. So I'll put those aside. And we're just going to go and grab my river table resin. So what I thought I would do is, so we've got fluid ounces. I don't know which ones you guys want me to use. I'm just going to use mils because I'm Australian and I know how to use mils. But look, these cups have got all kinds of things on them. They've got cc's, mils, fluid ounces. All right, so what we'll do, we'll put the little cup on and I'll zero it. And then what I will do is I am going to, just for the sake of the video, I'm going to put in 250 milliliters of A, and then we'll do 250 milliliters of B, and we'll see what they weigh, okay? I'll just go and grab my resin. All right, so here we go. This is the river table epoxy, and actually let's just do, we'll do 150 mil. That's just there, okay? So I know you can't really see, but I will measure it out 150. And this is another reason I don't particularly like doing this, because I see the little line there and I go, okay, am I going to the top of the line? Am I going to the bottom of the line? And it looks as if there's like a bubble on the surface. And if you're looking down on an angle, it looks like 150 mil, but if you're looking up, then it's more. Okay, that's a bit more. I have to put some out now. Oh gosh. So this is why for me personally, I just find that it's easier to weigh it. Okay, that's 150, and the little bubble of the resin's just above the line, okay? So that is part A. And now this is part B. So we'll do 150 mils as well. And I know it's a 2-to-1 resin, and this should be double, but I want to show you the difference in the weight, okay? This is why I do what I do. So I'm just going to pop in 150 mils. I will be putting this resin back in the bottle because it's not the measurements I need. Okay, that's gone over a little bit too. Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. Yep, the little resin bubbles at the top of the line. Okay, so we'll turn it on. The cups are exactly the same cups, so we don't have to like subtract any amount out for the cup. So this is part A, and 150 mils with the cup is 170 grams, which is 6 ounces. Okay, we'll put it back to grams. Now we'll put that back on 0. Now this is part B, same amount, 150 mils, and it weighs 150 grams. Exactly the same volume. Let's change that to ounces. 5.3 ounces. Okay, so this one was 6 ounces. This one is 5.3 ounces. They are exactly the same volume. All right, clear as mud. I hope so. All right, so that is, I'm just saying this is why I weigh them, because even though they are both 150 milliliters in the cup, they don't weigh the same. All right, so yep, that's why I follow this chart. Right, let me pour these back in and I'll be right back. Right, that resin is back in its jars. Now I will mix up some resin for you. Now the mold that I'm going to use, I need about 400 grams of resin. So, and it's a 2-to-1 resin. So we look down here at the total, and there's 350, 393. I'm going to go with 393 because it's almost 400 grams. So I'm going to do 275 grams of part A, and because it's a 2-to-1 resin, it's 2 parts A to 1 part B. So 275 grams of A to 118 grams of B, and that'll give me my 393, and that should be fine. So here we go, 275 grams. Put the scale on 0. Make sure it's on grams or ounces or whatever you want to use, and 0 your cup. All right, because you don't want to add the weight of the cup. So we're doing the Platinum River table. This is part A, and we are going 275 grams. Now when you pour your resin in, I like to hit the resin in the bottom of the cup first, because if you start by hitting the resin on the side of the cup, of the inside cup, the cup will probably tip over because of the weight of the resin hitting it. And then I like to pour the resin down the side of the cup just to help eliminate bubbles going in. But just make sure you're not putting too much weight on the side of your cup or it will go over. I've done that. That's what I'm saying to you. Try not to put the weight of the resin on too much on the side of the cup. All right, there we go. 170, 173, 174, 274, sorry, 275. So slow down as you're getting towards the end there. Get a bit of paper towel and just wipe the side of your jug so that you can put it away nice and cleanly. All right, so that's it's gone to 273, but it was 275. It's just this base that it's on. Okay, so now we 0 it again. And now part 2 is going to be the 118. That one there, 118. Can you see that? 118. So part B is this one. And 118. You're going to make sure you 0 it first. See all the big bubbles that come up when you pour straight into the side, into the middle there? If you can pour it onto the side, it's a little bit more tricky when your cup's full, so probably won't. But just go slowly. The last thing you want to do is put too much of B in, because then you have to calculate how much more you've gone over. Almost there. 107, 115, 117, 118. Okay, so that's that one. And we'll just wipe that again, put the little lid on. Okay, so now we're good to go. We've got our resin in there. I'll just move my scale away. I'll move my little chart away. I'll bring it back to you a bit later so that you can take another photo. Now, I use a wooden pop stick. I'm sure you've got your gloves on. I have a timer, It's set for 4 minutes. So I'll press start and we will count down and we will just stir for 4 minutes. I would normally go and sit down at my desk over there, or watch some TV or something while I'm stirring. But yes, just basically stir. You don't want to whisk like this, okay? Because you're going to get bubbles in there. Just stir, not so slowly like this, because you're not going to get the whole thing mixed in the 4 minutes. But I just do it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's this sort of speed. And then I'll wipe the sides, wipe the stick, go again. Now, you can see in there that the resin is leaving streaks. You can see the streaks of the A and the B. They haven't combined yet, so it looks quite streaky. Once they have combined properly, all those streaks will be gone and it'll be nice and clear. So if you get to the end of your 4 minutes and your resin's still looking a bit streaky, just go for another minute, okay? Especially with the thicker resins. The 1-to-1 resins tend to be thicker resins. The 1-to-1 resins are usually like a top coat resin that you might put over your artwork. Or a doming resin that you might want to do a top coat on other pieces of resin that you've done, and maybe they're not shiny and you think, oh gosh, I'd really like to do a top coat on those. That's when you'd get your 1-to-1 resin out. But for casting, as in making some coasters or a frog or an octopus or something like that, you don't want a really thick resin that's going to hold the bubbles in it, because it's difficult for the bubbles to come up to the surface and to pop on their own if the resin's really thick. Because you imagine, like if you've got some bubbles in, say, a jar of honey, trying to get the bubbles to come up through all that honey, because it's really quite thick, is difficult. Whereas if you've just got a glass of water or a glass of milk and you maybe have a bubble in that, you know, the liquid's much thinner, so the bubble's going to come to the surface on its own nice and quickly and it will pop. So that's the difference between the 1-to-1s generally and the 2-to-1s. So the 1-to-1 resins are really good for the 3D bloom technique because they're already a nice thick resin. If you're using a 2-to-1 resin, casting resin, and you want to do the 3D blooms, you might have to wait half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour before you can start piping your petals, because you're waiting for that resin to thicken up. Whereas if you're using a 1-to-1 resin, equal amounts, it's already thick, so you don't have to wait very long. I still wait a little while with mine. Make sure it's really thick so that your white pigment paste doesn't fall through. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're really new to resin, feel free to watch my 3D bloom videos, and I will be doing another educational video for the newbies to the 3D flower or bloom technique, because they are a little bit tricky. You do have to have certain things in place before you can just do your blooms, or they just fall to the back and you get all these blobbies. So almost done, you guys. And now I know there's a few bubbles there. There we go. Timer's going off. That's our 4 minutes. There's one little streak in there. Now I'll turn that off. Now this cup has actually got little indentations on the sides. It's easier if you can get smooth cups, but this one's got ridges. I should say ridges. It's got these little ridges, so I'm just going to push the resin down off those ridges, because even when you do this, because they've got the ridges, you're missing some of the resin that's inside those lines. So give them a scrape like that as well. Get the resin out of those lines. Okay, so now this is the river table resin. It has a really long work time, this particular one. It takes probably almost 2 days to cure, enough to to use. So we're just going to wait now. I'll bring you down and we'll have a look at the bubbles in there, and then we'll wait a few minutes and see if the bubbles will dissipate on their own. It's a bit difficult to see, isn't it? Bubbles, but there's bubbles in there. When you do pour your resin, obviously it's not going to be that deep, you know, it might only be 6 centimeters or so, like, you know, 1/4 of an inch. The bubbles will come up to the surface really easily on their own, and you can just hit them with your torch or a little bit of alcohol spray to pop them. But I'll come back in a few minutes and see if any of those bubbles have popped on their own. So it's been about 5 minutes. That's what it's looking like now. A lot of the bigger bubbles have come up and popped on their own. There's a few little micro bubbles in there. I'm not worried about those because when I pour into my mold, they'll just come up on their own. So there we go. That's the first part of the video done. Now I'm going to use I'm going to use this 400 grams of resin in my video. So I will stop this now and I'll use this. And then next time I need a 1-to-1 resin, I'll mix that up and I'll use that. So hopefully this has helped. Hopefully you kind of understand why I weigh my resin. But feel free to measure yours as well. Put 100 mils in, or 100, or I don't know, try 5 ounces, no, 5 fluid ounces of A and 5 fluid ounces of B, and then weigh them and see. You'll see for yourself that A is heavier than B. All right, I'll leave you there. I'll get this poured and I will see you real soon. We'll do some 1-to-1, all right?